Well, hello there, and welcome to the Poetry News with me, Squigs, R.sen, and our guest host, Elemental. How's everyone doing today? Are you well?
Hi,
Yeah.
how are you doing?
Hey, Martin. Hey, everybody. How you doing?
It's turning out to be a great December.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Speaking of which, if anyone's looking for a Christmas present, check out Poets Against
Ooh.
Racism. They do awesome t-shirts.
Nice.
Yeah,
Love that design.
It's really cool. It's a really awesome group. But check them out online. Looking forward to presenting the news with everyone. It's going to be a good show. I can feel it. So we have loads coming up today, but we start with a country that I don't think we featured before on the Poetry News, and that country is Greece, where submissions are currently open for the 10th International Video Poetry Festival, run by the Athens-based Institute for Experimental Art. The festival, I quote, attempts to create an open public space for the creative expression of all tendencies and streams of contemporary visual poetry. They're open to pretty much any poetry film on any subject and in any style from anywhere, but do have a preference for, and I quote again, artwork that examines and challenges traditional visual communication methods while continuing to function as a tool for exploring poetry. Poems can be in any language, but must have Greek either as the main language or as available subtitles. Submissions cost €6 per video and are open until the 10th of March 2022. However, I will say, just from having a cheeky nose about on their YouTube and their website, they are really putting their money where their mouth is when they say experimental. And some of the video submissions are properly good and also really quite intense. So I would say if you are going to submit, you'd want to do more than a still camera and talking head and reading a poem, even though I watch loads of videos and they're fantastic. So if you're interested in this competition, full details and the submission link are available at filmpoetry.org. At this point, I'd like to bring back my other fantastic heralds and ask everyone, what do you think? Sounds interesting to you? Do you fancy submitting?
It sounds good. I'm so I think it's my own reservations though because I'm still like a little insecure about my own work. I don't know if I will submit yet, but it does sound like a really cool platform.
I think that like poetry, like why does music have to have the whole monopoly on videos, right? I think there should be more poetry videos out there, and the fact that this event accounts for experimental, it's almost like, you can't do any wrong. You just be free to express yourself, and I just think that poetry should be put to video more often.
I agree.
I love that you mentioned they are hoping to challenge visual methods, right? And I believe that that's part of what we do as poets is we challenge the status quo, whether it be visually or auditory, right? We kind of exist in those spaces where we're comfortable pushing things forward, right? So for them to be accepting and willing to be in that space to allow people to go that far into their creativity, I think is a blessing for artists who may not necessarily feel comfortable in the written word, right? Or performing, right? This gives them another aspect to really express themselves. I think it's great.
Absolutely, and they've got quite a lot of videos from past years available either on their YouTube or on their website. They've got loads of information about it as well, far more than I had time to present in this segment. And I think, it is great, isn't it? The chance to be sort of encouraged to be sort of fully experimental. And there is some really, really experimental stuff on there. So definitely recommend, even if you just want to watch some videos, poetry videos that you might not have seen before. Whether you want to submit or not, definitely I'd recommend checking it out because it's really interesting to see. So yeah, thank you for your thoughts, everyone. And we will be back right after this.
Greetings, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Welcome back to the Poetry News. I am the guest Harold Elemental, standing in for Eddie this week. I want to bring you a workshop that connects with me in different levels. This is a workshop known as Playable and Interactive Poetry. It's an hour-long workshop that'll generate creative, playable poems, including word searches, crosswords, and sentence matching games. Through word searches, crosswords, and sentence matching games, they'll work on 3 exercises to create new playable pieces, which bridge the gap between poetry and games. After all, what are poems if not fancy word games? And what are word games if not playable poetry? Workshop is hosted by Helen Bowie, author of Word Play, an interactive collection of fully playable poetry released in 2021. It's happening on the 1st of December, 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. New York, and 3 a.m. Manila. The cost is up to €6, but we shall see. Personally, this speaks to me as being a creative being. I've used some of these aspects in my book that was published last year in a way to interact differently with the readers other than just flat poetry, just my preference. So I'm going to bring back the Heralds, and I would love to hear how you folks feel about using different creative ways to create visually striking poetry.
I think one of my favorite plays on poetry, or trying to found poetry rather. I can't remember exactly what it's called. I think because in my head visually it looks like a redacted text. So it's like where you take a page of some other literature and then find words and blank out everything else. Although because even though I pick up these books at like used bookstores, I try to scan the pages first and then play with it just so I don't damage the book, because books are sacred essentially. And yes, that's one of my favorite fun things to do. Poetry games, you can come up with new stuff. It's really your words because your interpretations. What is that called? If anybody knows on our Heralds or our viewers, I call it redacted poems because I watch X-Files.
I think it's an erasure poem. Well, that's what it's called. In the UK, it's called an erasure poem.
Okay. Wow, that's a fancy name. Anyone else play poetry games that they want to talk about?
No, I'm starting to now, because I find that when I'm going through a kind of like a writer's blockish type of moment or like I want to write something. I know I had the urge to write something, but I don't know what to write about. I find myself going to my favorite poetry books and taking poems from there and being inspired to like write a response to it, or take a line from theirs and then change it into a completely different poem. So I think this workshop is super cool. I'm excited. I'm actually going to sign up for this one. Not that I sign up for all of them, but yeah, I'm definitely signing up for this one.
It definitely sounds really interesting, just because I'd never thought of playing with poetry in that specific way before, with like crosswords and things like that, and exercises sort of around that type of thing. And also, I think I like the fact that it's only an hour long, because it's going to be snappy and to the point, and just here it is, introduce you, and sort of I really like short workshops like that, because they really give you a lot quite quickly, and the quality of the information is really high, because there's nothing sort of extraneous on it. It's all about the subject. And yeah, it's there are so many ways that you can play with poetry, and all of them end up helping you writing in some way, even if it's like an indirect way. And like, just a very quick thing on the erasure poetry, a challenge for any of our heralds or anybody watching. There's quite a famous British band from the 80s called Erasure. So if anybody wants to take some Erasure lyrics and make an erasure poem out of them, that's your challenge, and send it in to us.
Okay.
Nice. I like that. It sounds a lot like a variation of found poetry, right? Where you just have the words and you're just kind of selecting little pieces of that to make it something. I've been in workshops before where you just kind of start with a free write, and then you take pieces of that free write and actually make it a poem. So I think there's a level of creativity in that, which is also playful, right? Because when we start to craft poems, we're very deliberate about what goes where and when and how. But when you start out with a bunch of words and you're just like, how do I make this work? Right now, it's like putting a puzzle together. It's not, it's challenging, but it's fun, you know?
Mhm.
So I truly appreciate those aspects, really, because again, it just challenges people to be creative in different ways. And again, for me, it was about trying to interact with my readers in different ways. Again, I appreciate the Heralds for all that you bring your insight. After this break, we will come back with R.sen.
Hello and welcome back. It is I, R.sen. How are you today? I have for you an open mic that I cannot believe I haven't told you guys about yet. Honestly, like where have I been? I apologize for this. So this is called the Virtual Voices open mic it's powered by the Rose Garden events. Two spoken word artists are the hostesses, beautiful hostesses, very powerful. One is my mentor, her name is J Rose, and the other is Leah V, who is a powerhouse in herself. The origin of this open mic was, of course, Miss Rona herself, Miss Coronavirus. And this all started as a virtual and now it's a hybrid event. So every third Friday of the month, so December 17th is the next one, you can come on and it doesn't matter what kind of art form you have. Poet, musician, comedian, acrobat, they've had acrobats on there. It's a great platform. It's worldwide, and the cool part about it is they promote, for poets and artists, they promote tipping. So they will ask for your Venmo, they will ask for your Cash App, they will ask for your PayPal. When you sign up, the sign up is donation based. So a $3 minimum suggested donation is a part of their platform. So unfortunately, this is not free 99, but the $3 goes towards them powering more events for you, people like us. And I can tell you, as a person who personally knows both of these hostesses, they do a lot for this community, and they do a lot to make sure that people who come on their platform are continuing to elevate and continuing to get opportunities, and often paid opportunities, as long as you keep coming to their events and they keep getting to know you. So they do really like to create a family type of environment. Their advanced registration up until the last hour, so third Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They are New York based. So you have until 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to sign up. And it's usually just such a blast. It's like, this is one of my first open mics that I ever started at. I'm someone who started performing during the pandemic, even though I've been writing for like 20 plus years. So this is a really, really cool virtual mic, and I encourage everyone to come along. And I would love to invite my Heralds on to to have a discussion about it. Let me know what you think.
I think that this is great how these open mics are. It's not very common to take tips, donations, but that really helps a lot. So it's great. You see, you meet an artist, and yeah, I would like to show my appreciation. But not only that, the fact that it perform and it presents accommodates for different art forms is a great way to. I don't know if you all have gone to different open mics with musicians as well, and you develop a bond, and the next thing you know, you're coming up with a piece that's poetry and music.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So it's a great opportunity. What do you all think?
Yeah, 100% for me. I think that the fact that it's a hybrid event, I think gives people a chance to feel where they want to perform in that, whether, if they have the ability to be in person or, still the comfort of Zoom. I truly appreciate all forms of creativity that they're bringing in. There are venues that I've gone to that I frequent that they do have time slots for that. And it really is a different, diverse type of creative energy that comes through when you do allow for music and whatever it is, right? I think it's important because again, it's still about creative energy, and that creative energy still gets shared with others. I do particularly appreciate the minimum suggested donation to help power more events, right? Even if it's, beyond paying the artist, right? Because I know that's important. Trust me, because a lot of artists are starving, this one included. But I think it's important to kind of help power these other events, right? Because again, we've been talking about exposure to people and creativity, and to have these types of events. And again, even if you can only drop $1 or $2, it truly makes a difference to help to continue the platform for poets.
It's so true, isn't it? And I think it's amazing how much variety you can actually get with essentially a bunch of rectangles and people's faces within them. It's amazing, every night has its own vibe, not just because of its own sort of regular crowd and the people it attracts, but the little kind of unique things that make each event unique and what it is. And I'm the same. I really like the idea that especially that it's tips and donations if you can, so there isn't a barrier for entry. I mean, like I know that to a lot of people a few dollars or whatever isn't much, but to a lot of people it really is, and that can make the difference between coming and not. And the more inclusive you can be, the bigger variety of people you get, which only adds to the experience for everybody. And the same again in the sense of, why should something just be a poetry night or just be a music night? I think hybrid, not just in terms of the technology, have it face to face and online, but hybrid in terms of not just the art form, but also having people be able to come in from anywhere. You or actually go to the physical event itself. You can only win with that long term. And I do wonder, it's amazing that people never really thought of that before the pandemic.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's just, we've developed these communities with people around the world at these mics. I've got friends who it's like they're at every mic that I see, because it's opened up the world for them. And, we don't want to now close that off. Now people will start going face to face again. So yeah, it sounds great. And we should really get behind events like this.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I remember when I first, like, this one's personal to me. This is where I met my mentor. J Rose is my mentor, like I was saying. And I remember when this first started off, it was just a Zoom, but a few of us on Zoom. And now they've expanded out where, and this is where I know I can speak personally to their care for wanting to make sure that we as artists get the right amount of exposures. They've expanded rather to both Facebook and YouTube streaming, and they've changed their platform to like StreamYard so that you can be more global and be more out there. And this is like, I know that we've had some really cool open mics on this news, but this one particularly is special. Like, I can tell you that there's a lot of people who will throw like events like this and it's just like, okay, cool, we got performers, done. They're not like that at all. They make sure to take care of everyone who comes on their platform, as long as you take the initiative to keep in touch with them. So thank you guys very much. I highly suggest everyone to go onto Eventbrite if you can and sign up to register. And I'll see you all on December 17th. So now let's go to a break and come back to Squigs.
Good morning, good evening, good day, wherever you are in the world. I'm Squigs reporting for the Poetry News, and this week I have some sad news to report in an article by thewallpaper.com, written by Diane Thinussen, about a week ago, at the end of November. Artist Etel Adnan, obituary. We remember Etel Adnan, writer, artist, and pioneer in Arab American culture, who had passed away in Paris at the end of last month, at the age of 96. In the article, it shows some of her work, her paintings, such as Les Poètes du Monde 1 to 20, 2016, featured in the Serpentine Gallery, June 2016. The article continues to speak of Etel. Etel Adnan is an acclaimed writer, trailblazing artist, and pioneer in Arab American culture. She was born in 1925 in Beirut, Lebanon, to a Greek mother and Syrian father. Etel Adnan started painting in the early 1960s after studying philosophy at Sorbonne in Paris. She moved to America in 1955 to pursue her career in education at the University of California, Berkeley, and Harvard. 3 years later, she settled in California to teach philosophy of art and aesthetics at the Dominican University of California. She wrote essays, articles, novels, poetry, and plays in various languages, including French, Arabic, and English. Adnan rose to prominence in 1977 with Cite Marie Rose, a novel set before and during the 1975 and 1990 Lebanese Civil War, considered as one of the key examples of war literature. When the Algerian War exploded, Adnan made conscious decision to stop writing in French and identified painting as an alternative channel for communication. Her earlier visual artwork was refined and abstract, created by applying thick layers of oil, paint onto canvases laid flat on a table, heavily relying on bright colors and non-figurative shapes. And examples of this, of course, is in this article by wallpaper.com. The article goes on to say that her final and ongoing show, Light's New Measure, at the Guggenheim, New York, until January 2022, captures Adnan's extraordinary creative and intellectual vision, one which an unwavering commitment to chronicling social injustice and capturing the beauty of the natural world. And now I would like to read an excerpt from one of Etel Adnan's poems. And it could be found at poetryfoundation.org. And this piece is titled From the Manifestations of the Voyage. My house's stairway is seized with vertigo, matter having forsaken its laws. We land in hell, ascending to heaven. Shadows move along ladders. Under the silence of ordinary things, there is another silence. It belongs neither to the leaves nor to the dead. With a crown of birds circling him, a child is running in an abandoned house. The stairway takes the measure of its own emptiness. I, myself, am the stairway that time has used in its funeral course. Wheels lift water in the gardens of Hama and come down, not waiting for the river to put out the fire. Here we are left with the river sign and Paris's poisons. I prefer gardens where linden trees get ready for a lunar voyage. The stairway that separates my room from my memory whispers in my ear. And that was an excerpt from The Manifestations of the Voyage by Etel Adnan from the poetryfoundation.org. More of her work can be found as well on the website. And please, I welcome you all to read the obituary from thewallpaper.com, which continues to read, politically and artistically, Adnan was engaged with her environment. Her varied and nomadic background led her to create work that defied cultures and disciplines to create a powerful dialogue between art and writing, humanity and nature. And here at PGN and the rest of the artistic world mourns the passing and celebrates the great work shared by Etel Adnan. So I would like to welcome back my heralds to speak of seeing artwork and just general idea of how bringing awareness to the world and its cultural issues, is it's definitely one of our responsibilities as writers. And we we mourn, and we are grateful to have had such a wonderful soul share this time with us on this planet.
Yeah. Well, first of all, rest in peace to this absolutely beautiful soul, and clearly just all around artist. And the poem you just read, where she said, "We land in hell, ascending to heaven." I got goosebumps. Oh my God. There's such a truth to that, right? Like when you think about it and wow, yeah, I just wanted to show my appreciation and respect to her. Like, wow.
Absolutely, and it's I think whenever somebody who's prominent in their field passes out, and obviously rest in peace, Etel Adnan, as well from me. I think whenever this happens, then whenever people talk about it, there's the responsibility to sort of keep their work alive and remember who they were, and it's also the responsibility to remember, obviously, that like I didn't personally know them before, but to us and to fans of them, they're a poet, they're an artist with all this work, but then they're also family member and friend, and whenever you're talking about something, it's very important to obviously recognize and to remember that as well. I think I love I love all the metaphor in that poem about the staircase with vertigo and separating room from the memory, and the way the image kept going back to that staircase was absolutely amazing. And I think another thing, and I don't think this was intended at all in the article, but he said they rose born in 1925 and rose to prominence in the 70s, meaning they were in their early 50s when they rose to prominence. So that's also a marker for any artist who might believe that they're not going to have their time. Keep at it. You never know. You never know when that big break might come. And I don't think the article intended that at all, but I'm sure that would be a message that Etel Adnan would have echoed. So yeah, that's my ramble on that.
I absolutely love that, Martin. The number, right? Because I was going to get into. They said, first of all, may she rest in poetry. Secondly, said she died at 96, right? And now she's getting these accolades, in these museums and this worldwide exposure. I'm thankful that with all that this creative being was able to do, right? Exploring war literature in French and Arabic and English, right? Using painting as an alternative to poetry. These types of people, right? They transcend circumstance, and they see with eyes that aren't necessarily just attached to their head. And I appreciate that. And the fact that, thankfully, they were able to live long enough to receive their flowers, right? Because again, a lot of us will think, hey, if I didn't reach it by the time I was 22, it'll probably never happen, right? But this is another example of how poetry ages, right? Similar to some things that people love. I'm not going to get into that about, things that people love that are aged. But I think it does take time for people to kind of know what they're doing, right? Because look, if you look at what she was doing early on, right? Exploring war literature in the different languages, teaching philosophy, it's a natural bridge into poetry, right? But not everyone is willing to do that. So for them to have that willingness and that fearlessness to take what they knew and turn it into something like poetry for creative beings to digest, I think it's absolutely beautiful. Again, may they rest in poetry.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, everyone. And please read the Etel Adnan's work on poetryfoundation.org. It's beautiful. She got it right. Yeah. And so thank you for time and yes, awareness and respect. We would like to continue with Martin after the break. So thank you everyone for joining us. Let's have Martin up soon.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for tuning in today, for seeing what we had to offer for you this week. We hope that some of it was of interest to you, some interesting submissions and mics and things like that. So this is not the only thing we have here at PGN. We have loads of shows every week. We have the Poets Lighthouse, we have Breathe Poet, we have the Poets Reacts, as well as the Poetry News, we have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We have loads of stuff going on. It seems that we have sort of more going on every week. We've got Bottoms Up, open mic every week. We've got Haven. We've got all the affiliated events that members of PGN run. So there's loads to get involved with, and we'd love for you to like, comment, subscribe. You know, let us know what you think about everything that's featured on the show. You know, we'd love to not just have this as us presenting to you, but let's get a conversation going. You know, this is, you know, the conversations that they're good for everyone.
Just said, easy way to follow us is through our social at the PGN official, and you know, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a follow, come be friends with us. We have a lot of stuff to show. Thanks again for joining us. Thank you, big thank you to Elemental for joining us today, and we miss you, Eddie. Eddie, hope you come back soon. And thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.
Indeed.
Cheers, everyone.
Take care,
Take
folks.
care.
Get well soon, Eddie.